Hey guys, welcome to The Mom Show. I'm your host, Courtney Doyle, and this is a place I am giving you permission to not have it all together. As we step into Thanksgiving week, a week centered around family, gratitude, and of course, food, I couldn't think of a more fitting conversation to share with you. For many of us, food is tradition, comfort, celebration. But for some families, food has actually been the key to healing, clarity, and even restoring connection. And that's exactly what today's guest, Olesya, discovered on her journey with her son. Through years of uncertainty, unclear diagnosis, emotional struggles, and feeling like her child was slipping away, it was a surprising change in nutrition, paired with prayer, patience, and persistence that transformed everything for her family. Her story is hopeful, eye-opening, and a beautiful reminder that God can use the simplest things to bring breakthrough. I hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family, and I hope you enjoy this conversation with Olesya. Without further ado, here's my guest. Welcome back to the show. As you know, we have been in a season of Help, My Child Is, or Help, I'm a Mom Who. And my guest today is coming on, and she's going to be filling in that blank for us. So I'm going to turn the mic over to you, Olesya. And when I say Help, My Child Is, how would you finish that sentence?
I would say that my child is lost, and I
Mm.
feel like he's lost to me as well. Yeah,
What makes you feel that way?
it's really interesting because I feel like whenever your child has like a neurological disorder, you feel like he's in there, but you just can't get him out. And he can't be his true self because his mind is just so clouded by these different things that are affecting him. My son Oliver, he is such a joy. He's 17 years old right now, getting ready to graduate, and we homeschool. And so I've been able to watch him very intimately through his journey and just watching him learn how to become who he was designed and created to be through a natural way without any medication.
Does he have a specific diagnosis?
So we're a military family, which means we travel a lot. And so every time we go from one place to another, diagnosis is everything. Like, it's hard to be consistent. And when we lived in Alaska, was about 6 years old. And I was like, there's got to be something wrong.
Mm.
So we asked the doctors in Alaska, and Alaska's 10 years behind on everything. Let's just be honest. And so I went
Okay.
and asked them, like, what's going on? These are the symptoms my son has. Like, he couldn't follow instructions very well. It was like, I could tell him if I gave him two things to do, he might get one thing done. His
Mm.
mind is just not capable of understanding beyond that. He was just struggling a lot. So we tried to do some testing as a homeschool family, and they sent us down to Anchorage, which was like a 10-hour drive because the beautiful city we lived in didn't offer the resources we need. And they diagnosed him and they said, okay, so he has Asperger's, but we can't really diagnose him because that is no longer what we diagnose. It has to be very severe autism for us
Mm.
to be able to diagnose him because that's just the way Alaska worked at that time.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. So they said, you can just assume that he's on the spectrum,
Mm.
but we can't give any official diagnosis unless it's severe autism. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So I guess without a diagnosis, then there was very little support in addition because they couldn't make a diagnosis.
There was absolutely very little support, and we were getting ready to move again.
Mm.
And so everything that we had made progress so far within the medical field is really, they say it's easy to transfer, but it's really not from one state to
Yeah.
the other. Yeah. So
Yeah. It's
after
like starting over every time.
absolutely. Yeah. But God is so good because he uses our weaknesses for his glory.
Mm.
Because right after Alaska, God sent us to talk about extremes. Like we're going to go from the coldest place in America to the hottest place in America.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. And Courtney, I can't even explain to you how good God is because we knew ahead of time we didn't want to treat his diagnosis with medication because
Hmm.
we've heard so many things that people struggle with. God did this funny thing where we completely forgot about his diagnosis during the trip there because as soon as we got to Texas, I started suffering from my own autoimmune disease and I started losing my hair so fast.
Oh,
It was so bad. Like when I went to the dermatologist, she's, you can take men's grade Rogaine, but there's really nothing we can do for you.
interesting.
And so, like, I'm at this point where I'm like, okay, I look like a cancer patient. And
Oh, wow.
so I'm not even thinking about my son, Oliver. And then the most amazing thing happened. I was at Bible study and this sweet lady, we had a potluck and she said, hey, Alicia, what did you put in your soup? So I told her what I made. And oh, there's no wheat. Great. I can eat it. I'm like, what are you talking about? So 5 seconds, she said, oh, I have Hashimoto's, but I've learned to keep it in remission by eating, following the autoimmune protocol diet. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So like entire night that night, I just researched this diet. And I found out that lots of people with autoimmune conditions are able to put their conditions into remission. And sure enough, I followed this and I was going to cook 2 meals for my whole family. And my condition went into remission. But something else incredible happened. Oliver started being able to follow instructions for the first time in his life. And I want to cry because, oh my God, this is who he was
Wow.
meant to be. This is my son. He's so creative. He's so much fun. He's like my best friend. Like even to this day, he's my best friend. And
Wow.
and so essentially, this diet is just reduces inflammation and it creates a healthy gut. And so I've been learning
Mm.
a lot about the gut brain barrier and the things we eat and how what you eat. It doesn't just affect your stomach, it
Yeah.
affects your mental capacity to be able to do various things, various tasks, how much energy you have, how much brain fog you have. And so
Hmm.
this was back in 2017 that I started learning about like how much your food affects you, that I can put my autoimmune conditions in remission. My son, who's on the spectrum, can finally do school, like, and I don't have to be mad at him. And Courtney, for me to say that everything changed would not be an understatement. Like, our whole family changed because
Wow.
Oliver's a twin and his
Okay.
relationship with his brother changed. And the other thing that was fascinating is he had no sense of empathy before.
Interesting.
Like,
Which is a typical condition to go along with someone who is battling with Asperger's or being on the spectrum, is that emotional connection. I feel like that's some of the first signs that moms see in their
yeah,
children whenever they are beginning to see that something's not right, is that emotional detachment. Had you seen that in him when he was younger, the emotional detachment?
no, absolutely. He was so detached. He was almost like, I even say like a zombie. He just had like, you tell him, you try to understand emotions because he has a younger sister too. And his face would be like, just
Mm.
blank. And
Stoic.
he couldn't comprehend like why
Mm.
is she sad, how
Mm.
did this make her feel this way, why is mom upset, like he had no comprehension of those things. So he started understanding empathy for the first time in his life and he was 7 years old.
Wow.
It was like so amazing. When we got to Texas, in addition to this, he also stuttered a lot and I thought nothing of it. My dad stutters too, but my dad also has emotional comprehension that's like completely lacking too. And so I just thought, oh, he just stutters. No big deal. It must be just a genetic
Right.
predisposition. And so he went to speech therapy for a whole year. And then out of the blue, I think it was probably on Facebook, I came across this company called The Brain Balance.
Mm.
And because we lived in another really small town in Texas, like hours away from civilization, like to get to San Antonio, it took 3 hours to get there.
Hmm.
And I ordered all their books and I looked and they had a no food list, 10 no food lists. I'm like, oh, we follow everything except for two of these things.
Because at this point, you were already doing the autoimmune diet, the
Yeah.
anti-inflammatory diet. Oh, this
Mhm.
is in place for your family. You've seen improvements, and
Yeah.
now you've come across this brain balance, and there's a list of foods, and there's two additional ones that you're like, okay, I'm already cutting everything else out. Keep going.
And the two things that they said that we hadn't eliminated was apples and citrus. And every single day, I would offer my kids as a snack an apple or a clementine.
Okay. Healthy
Apples,
snacks,
healthy
right?
snacks. I thought I was doing the best thing for my child. For my other two children, it was a great snack. They still eat it and they're still fine. But for Oliver, I'm like, I'm so sorry. How hard is it to explain to now an 8-year-old boy, you can't eat these snacks anymore?
Yeah.
I know you like them, but you really can't. But it's so wild. Within 1 week of us cutting out apples and citrus, he stopped stuttering
Stop.
completely.
Really?
His speech therapist says, I have done everything I could under the sun to help your son. And we haven't been able to do anything. How did this happen? She's, I've never seen this in my entire life. And I explained it to her. I have to tell all my professors. And he left the clinic that week and hasn't stuttered a single day since. And he's 17 now.
That is incredible.
Like,
That is incredible.
I think it's the only thing I can understand is for his stomach and children with similar conditions, the citrus is just too much that it abrupts the stomach enough that their brain, something happens. And I'm like, God, like, it's so hard for me as a Christian to be like, when the blanket came down with all the food on it in scripture, I think was it to Paul? And he said, God's like, eat everything. He said, but I can't, it's not clean, right? But God says, no, all foods are clean now. And so as a
Mm.
Christian, I'm like, always, God, you made all foods clean. But for some of us, this is so hard because when we eat these foods, it really affects us. And to be honest with
Hmm.
you, some things in like the spiritual world, like I have a hard time understanding.
Sure.
Just like, God, like, how do these play hand in hand? But one of the things I was so excited, Courtney, is because I can share with you who Oliver was at 7 and 8, but to
Hmm.
be able to share with you what kind of person he is as a man now, like
Yeah.
a couple months away from being 18, like to show you and to share with you and all of our friends, like there really is healing in
Mm.
this. Full disclosure, we don't follow the autoimmune protocol anymore. But what we have done is we've noticed the foods that trigger our bodies specifically.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
this morning I was talking to him. I was like, hey, Oliver, I wrote it down. What are the foods that you have noticed affect you more than anything else? And he says the main things that affects his mental ability to think, because the way we do things is as he started getting older, around 14, I started telling him, okay, Oliver, you know the foods that are good for you, but you will be faced with all these choices. You will have to
Yeah.
learn how to navigate these things. And when you
Hmm.
eat the wrong foods, you have to learn how you're going to come back from it, or if your body has changed and you'll be okay. And so he's gone through seasons of life where he'll be at a party and his friends ordered pizza and I'm just not going to eat. I'm okay. I'm fine not eating because I know this will affect my body and I don't want to lose myself. And he actually works at a pizza shop now. And
Ah,
so he knows like he'll eat the gluten-free pizza or he'll eat salads. And sometimes when he has regular pizza, he just knows his consequences. That's the way we talk about it. Okay, so what kind of consequences are you going to have, Oliver? He's like,
yeah.
it's going to take me a second to get out of it. It'll probably take him about a week
Wow.
to get out of the foods and to be able to come back to himself. But he has to put everything on the scale and decide, is it worth it right now? Sometimes it is. And
Hmm.
sometimes you're in a situation where you feel like this is a way you want to participate with your friends and enjoy yourself, but knowing how to come out of it.
Yeah.
And so,
And for him to be able to start recognizing that, I'm sure was a
mhm.
huge blessing for you as a mom because early on you're having to be the barrier and monitor. And so for him to be that in tune to his body to say, this is how this makes me feel, this is what I can have and I can't have, I know is a huge blessing for you as well. What were some of the things? Because you said you sent him a text this morning and you asked him, what was his response?
So his response is gluten. That's number one. Limiting his sugar intake. So he says sugar, processed foods like chips and anything you can buy that comes in a box or a bag. So he says he doesn't eat that whenever he has processed foods or legumes, so like lentils and beans, and then apples and citrus. Those are the things that he's, because the list is a lot longer of what you can't eat, right? Within
Mm.
AIP and this as well. But he has come down to these are the ones when he takes them out, he has the emotional capacity to comprehend the people around him. And when I say this, I hear like he really does understand the difference because he went through a season just a week ago is was has he's come back to me again because for a whole month when he was with his friends at work he was drinking monsters, he was eating pizzas every single day, and he's been working in the pizza shop for a couple of years now, but I lost him for another month and he's 17 and he's mom, this is so hard to come back to eating, this is so
Wow.
hard. And so like literally for a whole month we were all struggling because we're trying to be patient,
Yeah.
but he's not understanding anything we're saying. He has no understanding of our
Wow.
emotional capacity at all. And his answers are so like monotone. It's yes, mom. Duh, duh, duh. He's like, when he doesn't eat this well, like it's it's crazy.
Yeah, my mind is a little blown. Look, I'm not, and I think that compared to 10 years ago when you started looking at changing the food, I do think that there's more conversations around this right now. In the last several years, people talking about their gut health and the
Mm,
changes that it can make, and in just our foods in general here in America. And of course, this big push of what is happening to our children and the
yeah.
rise in autism, the rise in ADHD, and what are they consuming. It's fascinating to me that you were able to figure this out really through God placing just a little lady at a potluck, right? And you chatting with her and her saying, I can't eat this because this is how it affects me. And then it just spiraled for you into a research of how to make your son better minus all of the medications that can be put in place. How has this, what has been the most difficult part though of navigating this? Because we're kind of surface leveling it right now. You've received different diagnoses for Oliver, and you're trying to find the best solution without using medication for him because the side effects from the medication. And we could end the podcast right now and it would be, and I found a diet and it worked great. And I found things that he can't eat and he's improved. And wow, yay, this is so great. But let's go back to the real struggle, though, that we do have as moms when we're faced with a child who is battling something like this. Take me there for just a minute. What has been the most difficult part navigating all of this with Oliver?
I don't think the most difficult part would be what you would think.
Okay.
Because my most difficult part for me and my husband is the comparison. Remember, I mentioned like my dad had these behaviors. My dad was a very violent person,
Mm.
and my parents got divorced when I was young. And then when they got divorced, my brother continued to exude these same behaviors. And so my most difficult part is actually a fear. I'm like, if I don't help my son understand it for himself, not me always pushing it on him, he may end up emotionally incapable of understanding people, that he may hurt somebody like my dad and my brother did. Now, I'm not saying he's going to do that. He's a gentle kid. Like he's wonderful. He's never been physical, but that has been my biggest emotional struggle
Mm.
is trying to separate, no, Oliver's Oliver. This isn't my
Mm.
dad or my brother. So separating them like mentally, that has been my biggest challenge. And like even to this day, I'm like, ah, can't think of them because they're still my family. So
Yeah.
that's always been the biggest, like it's been a driving force for me to help him be independent in his,
Mm.
not putting him at the same level, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. And I think that listening to you say that making a difference and not lumping Oliver in, that this behavior looks similar to my father's behavior. So you're going to ultimately end up. I think that it would be really easy for us to start seeing those patterns. And because maybe we don't want to experience the trauma again, we just throw our hands up and say, that's obviously that's who you're going to be. And because I don't want to have to go through the trauma of what I've been through with my dad and my brother, I'm going to almost parent you at at arm's distance as a self-protection. Did you ever feel that way? Did you, when you first started seeing this, were you ever, I can't do this again, I don't want to do this again? Did you have to battle not parenting him with some boundaries, protective boundaries for yourself?
That's a really good question. I think that naturally that would be a feeling of that, but I'm wired so different because even though my dad and my brother had these things, I'm the person in my entire family that's so quick to forgive. Like I still talk to my dad, but our conversations are very one-sided. He tells me his stories, and nobody else in my family talks to him. So I'm so it's a good thing and a bad thing. I'm so quick to forgive. I'm like, so with Oliver, like honestly, because I spent so much time helping him and so
Hmm.
much time in these conversations, he has pretty much become one of my best friends. And through my
Mm.
difficulties with Oliver, I have learned also to have all my children become my best friends. I'm like, I get to spend all this time with you guys and my husband. Like, it changed my perspective on how we see our children. Yes, my children have friends, but we can actually be each other's best friends in a
Yeah.
whole different level. And I feel like it is through the pain that God allowed me to see something different. And He actually is the one that helped me launch my podcast. And
Mm.
He's the one who's helping me rebrand it again. And I'm like, he's such a creative guy. And I
Yeah.
love those times when he is capable of being them. And I remind like, Oliver, see how you're able to understand me emotionally. You're able to do these things. It's, yeah, mom, this is so cool. I love doing these things with you. And it's just,
Sweet boy.
it's, yes, it's a good thing.
Yeah. I think
Trials
that
are a
leads me to my
blessing.
next. Yeah, that leads me to my next because I asked you what was the most difficult, but what are some of the unexpected blessings that have come from walking this path together?
The unexpected blessings, obviously having him as a best friend. But beyond that, I feel like we've all been able to understand how much our food really affects us. And
Hmm.
just walking that journey, like when other friends are coming by and, hey, these are the things I struggle with. I don't have to tell them what they went through. My son is willing to be like, hey, I've
Hmm.
experienced this. And he's able to like share as a
Yeah.
blessing to other people. Like, I know how hard it is to lack these areas, but these things really do help. They really do
Hmm.
change the way things, and really being wise in your
Mm.
decisions leads to
Yeah.
healthy relationships.
Yeah. And that's in all decisions. It's not even just in our food. That's the wisdom that we want all of our children to have in whatever situations. Hey, this isn't a good idea. This isn't healthy, whatever it may be. So, to the mom who's listening, who's saying, wow, I would like to make some changes. I think I've got a child maybe battling this, that, or the other, but this feels so overwhelming. What advice would you give someone who is, I want to try this? Where can they start making some changes in their home that could potentially support their child's emotional or physical or spiritual growth?
I love that you're asking this because that's the same question I asked my son Oliver this morning. I was like, hey, what would you tell a parent going
Oh,
through what
good.
I had to go through? And he was so sweet. This is what he says: be patient with your children because they literally are not able to think clearly. And when you
Mm,
really think about that, like they can't think clearly, your patience is just different. And so that was really
hmm.
sweet of him to say that, is just be patient because they're not capable of thinking clearly in that stage. Yeah.
Sweet
But
boy.
I don't know, he's a doll. And he's gone through a lot of ups and downs
Yeah,
emotionally to try to understand where he is. And we'll all continue to
sure.
grow. But the biggest thing I would say to somebody who's, I want to make these changes, is that you cannot make these changes. I'm going to be completely blunt. You cannot make these changes by yourself. It has to be discussed with your spouse. It has to be discussed with the family. It has to be discussed with the individual because you don't want to just shock them into it. And the changes can be really big. And so what we did is we went all out and then we slowly figure out what does and doesn't work. And
Hmm.
it's not an easy way. The best way to start anything to do with food is not to take something out, but it is to add something healthy in.
Mm.
So you can go cold turkey. Some families are able to, like my family, but most of my friends who like, I want to do this, they want to go all out, but what if you decided over the next year, we're going to start adding more healthy options in? And after adding those healthy options in, we'll slowly take out the other options.
Mm-hmm.
Because you won't see the results until you are in all the, until you're like further
Mm-hmm.
into it. But it can create so much more trouble if you try to fix things instantly, if your family isn't wired for instant fixes. I was
Yeah.
fortunate. Like I had to make a change because I was balding. So I had to make a
Yeah.
sudden change. And it's having telling yourself something like for me, because remember, this started not because of my son. I didn't
Right.
know anything about this, but it started with me. Like, and I had to tell myself, Olesya, if you eat this pasta, you will lose your hair. I had to give myself ultimate like explanations
Mm-hmm.
where he tells himself, if I eat this, I won't be able to understand my friends. So
Wow.
he talks himself through it in his own way. I talked myself through it my own way. But you don't want to create marital issues by changing this because your marriage has to last eternity.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you have to be on the same page and you have to talk about, okay, how are we going to go through this? Don't just start, but make sure you're on the same page because
Yeah.
your marriage is really important.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think I liked what you said about don't start adding healthy before you take away. I know that if my 13-year-old walked in right now and I said, "Hey, look, no more processed foods, no more chip bags, no more this, no more candy," he would probably just pack his bags. He would be like, "I'm moving to the neighbors. I don't know, where is my mother and what did you do with her?" And so that's a great tool to slowly introduce and then eliminate. But with that takes patience, like what Oliver said, patience with yourself and patience with the process because it's not an overnight fix. And so I also feel like if you're not seeing results right away, that doesn't mean quit. That means just keep on. And hopefully there will be, not hopefully, there will be some benefit, of course, to a healthier lifestyle and eliminating some of these things for you and for your children. All right, I'm going to shift though. You're a
Yeah,
mom.
let's
You're
go.
busy. You have changed y'all's lifestyle because you said you have your own struggle. But how are you balancing, Alicia, your own self-care with the needs of your children, especially since this has been some situations that really were demanding. You've homeschooled your kids. Oliver has struggled. How are you balancing taking care of yourself?
That's a really good question. I know different people see that self care in very different ways, and it's hard to explain what that might mean to somebody else. For me, like, I actually don't think about self care
Okay.
because for me, I feel like when I spend, like, I don't know, when I love on my family, like, I really enjoy it. As long as I get a shower, I guess let's just be honest. As long as I get a shower, and I really enjoy, like, the things that I do, but the things that I guess that's the thing. Good question. God has given me a love for scripture and for helping other women. So,
Mm-hmm.
like in the mornings when the kids and I we spent some time maybe reading like 5 verses in the Bible, just like a small section. We're reading through Matthew 18 right now. And we literally read like maybe 12 verses and we we're like, oh, what does this mean? And we spend that time together. That really fills me up so much more than quiet time by myself reading the Bible. I don't know when we came up with this idea that you have to read the Bible by yourself in the quiet. Like even my 2-year-old comes up to me and he was opening like Kali book. He's Mommy, Bible. And he thinks he's reading the Bible, but he's looking at dogs. That fills me up so much to be able to just
Interesting.
be in God's word. Now, the reason why I can say this very clearly is because in the last when Oliver was going through, remember I told you he had a month period where he wasn't himself, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't reading the Bible during that time with my kids. And I noticed that their emotional state was changing and my emotional state was changing. But as soon as I started reading with them, like it's like weird. I'm like, God, like I know you're not a magic pill, but how does everything change when we draw near to you? everything changes when you draw near to God. And that could be with your worship music, listening to something, reading the Bible. If I told you I had a specific self-care regimen that changed my life, that had nothing to do with God, it would only be temporary.
Yeah. Yeah. You're so right. I love what you're saying though about who did come up with the notion that you have to have it as quiet time. I love that you're bringing your kids in and as a mom, I know that I think all the listeners would say we find most of our joy. I love being with my kids. I don't really have to go. Now, look, I love a good coffee and I do love silence occasionally, but
Yes.
you have four, I've got six. Sometimes it gets really noisy, and every now and then it's like, oh, I just needed some quiet, but I can find that in a closet. I don't necessarily have to go anywhere, but I enjoy the presence of my children so much. And so I love that you're taking that time and you're seeing the benefit of that with them and how it changes your perspective, and it just changes everything when we lean in closer. I'm going to ask one final question. What is something that you are praying for right now that we could join in prayer with you? And do you have a verse that you would share with our listeners?
Something I am praying for. Yeah, absolutely. Right now, I am praying for my mama. She is going through cancer right now, and she's on her second round of chemo, and that she has the strength to be
Mhm.
able to keep going through it, because it's a long journey and it's very
Yeah.
hard. So I would love prayer in that. And
Okay.
the Bible verse that I am loving right now, that kids and I are memorizing together. I actually pulled up my Bible because I thought you might ask me. And it is in Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. I love it. Actually, I like 4 through 8, but I'm just going to tell you verse 8.
Okay.
And the reason why I love this verse, Courtney, is because during that month when all we were struggling, we were like, okay, these are thought process issues. What does the Bible tell us about thinking? What does God want us to think about? And so naturally, this verse comes up. And I'm reading from the NIV translation, and it says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. And that applied in life for children and for adults is so beautiful, because
Yeah.
we want to talk about the negative with our friends, about our friends. We want to do this. We want to talk negatively about our kids. But what if we shifted that and
Mm.
thought about what's lovely, what's true? And
Mm.
I love this verse in this season of my life. It
Yeah.
is just a balm to my soul.
So
Yeah.
sweet. This has been so lovely to talk to you. You have such a calming spirit. I know we're just meeting through Zoom, but I'm like, just keep talking. Like you can just keep reading verses. Just so peaceful and so precious that the time and the love that you've put in to your children and to finding a solution that's really outside of the norm, and how God has met you there and blessed that perseverance in you as a mom. And so it's inspiring and encouraging. And I'm so grateful that you were willing to come on our show and encourage all of the listeners and me. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. It's such a joy, Courtney. Like, God is so good for bringing us together. I'm so thankful for
Yeah.
our friendship.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Olesya.
Of course.
Thanks so much for listening to The Mom Show with Courtney Doyle. Remember to check the show notes for any links, books, or resources that are mentioned in each episode. We want to be sure this blesses other mothers, and in order to do this, if you're listening via podcast, be sure that you like and share. If you could write a review, that would be fantastic. It helps us get in front of other moms. If you're watching via YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button. This way, you won't ever miss an episode. We want to make sure that we increase our reach to other mothers who need a little encouragement, a community, and a whole lot of Jesus. We're so glad you're here.